So I have a guest appearance on today's not just podcast, but also a live video. My significant other, fiance, Emily. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so the reason that I wanted to bring Emily on is because it's one thing to be or live a healthy lifestyle on your own, but it's another to have a significant other do it with you and create a relationship around it and allow it to be successful. So that is something that we have definitely had. And for those of you who saw the story leading up to this, we've been together for 5 years, and in those 5 years, Emily has lost over 30 pounds and over 15% body fat.
35 pounds, 18% body fat.
Okay, yes, every number counts. And I have actually lost over 10 pounds and about 10% body fat as well, if not a little bit more. But more than that, more than just the body composition, we've also gained a lot in improvement of our mental health, as well as self-control, our mindset, all sorts of things. So basically, health and wellness as a whole has improved in the 5 years that we've been together. And so I wanted to get together and have the people who listen to me and follow me ask certain questions about how we do it, how we make it sustainable, how we make it happy, how we have fun with it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read the questions that was asked of me for both of us to answer together, some specifically for Emily, some specifically for me. So, do you want to start with questions just for you, just for me, the questions for us together?
Just bop around.
No, let's not bop around. I like structure.
Of course you do.
Okay, so let's start with you. So one question is, before living with me, would you have considered yourself a healthy person?
So before living with you, before being with you, I did consider myself a healthy person, and a couple things contributed to my thought process back then, which I would think differently of now. One is that I had the knowledge of what it took to be healthy, so I knew what I was eating or what I was doing to be healthy or not. And I always knew that there was worse that I could be doing. So I considered myself to be living decently healthy because of what else I could have been doing.
So can you give us like an example of what you were doing that you considered healthy, but now looking back at it probably wasn't the most healthy lifestyle or choices, whatever it may be?
Yeah, one thing was my go-to lunch was always a sub. Like I loved Potbelly, I loved like Jersey Mike's, what have you, but I always had a rationalization that I wasn't eating pizza, and so that was like my go-to. I wasn't just eating pizza, I was eating like a meat and a carb and a fat. It was like, in my head, a decently well-rounded meal. Another example was salads. I worked at a restaurant, so I was always getting salads with a protein on top. Again, a salad could be healthy with a protein, but in reality it really wasn't.
Okay. And what was I going to say to that? Well, and obviously it is a healthier choice than eating the pizza or whatever, right? But with just growing with your conscious around what healthy really is and taking your health to the next level, because you were where you were and that was a healthy state, healthier than what it could have been,
Right.
But then you were ready to take it to that next level.
Yep.
So there's definitely different levels of it. Okay, cool. Another question, what was the biggest change in lifestyle when living day to day with me?
Biggest change when we moved in together, living every day with you, was the food. So having our food planned out, not eating in restaurants throughout the week was definitely, I mean, working in the restaurant, I was constantly eating in the restaurant, but I was also just a restaurateur in general. So I think that was the biggest change, of having a structured at-home meals Sunday night through Thursday.
Okay. So that takes me to kind of another point, and it wasn't really any question actually that was asked. It was making sure that you guys who do follow me and us understand really like what are we about? What are the things that we do that may be different than the mass population that helps separate us from living and continuing to achieve the most optimal healthy life? So one thing, if you don't already know, is I meal prep every single week. I have meal prepped my and now our Monday through usually Friday foods for myself for the last 6, almost 7 years. And I've done it also ever since we've been together. So I kind of actually wanted to run you through what that looks like for me, because it's easy to just say I meal prep, but what does that actually mean? And this is definitely an interesting contrast between the two of us, because that's something that I completely take ownership over. It's something that I've always done. It's something that I've become very comfortable with. She, in fact, when we first met and had a consultation together when we weren't dating, you know, I told her, after hearing all of the things that she eats in a restaurant and on a daily basis, I was like, okay, you are gonna have to marry a chef, because something's got to change here. And she was like, nope, I think I will just hire one instead. I was like, oh, okay, I see how you roll. But that's just my role in the relationship. And because I was never and am never willing to sacrifice how I'm eating for, if in case, let's just say that wasn't how she wanted to eat, that's still something I'm going to continue to do. So she fortunately has come onto that boat and is eating all the things that I eat as well and prepare. So that's the responsibility that I take. So basically we pick a day during the week. Usually it's more consistent in the wintertime because you're doing a lot less and you're a lot more bored. So you make a fun Thursday night out of it, and you sit down and you come up with all the meals that you're going to eat the next week. Everything from breakfast, lunch, to dinner, to the snacks that we're having as well. And then another day, I'm going to go grocery shopping. So let's just say Thursday is when we pick out our meals. Saturday, maybe Friday afternoon after work, I'm going grocery shopping. And then another day over the weekend, I'm dedicating to cooking all of the food. I used to grocery shop and cook all of the food on the same day, and there came a point in time where it was actually just overwhelming. It was too much time that I wanted to commit to a day. So I broke it up, and it's become a lot less stressful doing it that way. So that's what our meal prep looks like. Another thing that kind of separates us that I find so interesting from a lot of other people that I talk to is and because of the meal prep that we do, we eat all of our meals during the week at home. It's our prepared food. And the one biggest thing about that is, like, we save so much money compared to the people that I know that are going to the grocery stores and picking up the random meals, or going out to eat all of the time, which, if you have the means for it, that's awesome. If you need to save money and you feel like you're missing out on other things, like investing in your health, this could be a quick and easy way for you to save up some money. Not only that, it allows you to be in more control of what you're actually putting into your body. Okay. All right, let's go to the questions for me, and then we'll go to the questions that we can answer together. So one question that was asked directly to me was, what was the hardest thing to learn or adapt to when starting a relationship with someone who wasn't a fitness professional? And I wish that I could answer this better, but it actually wasn't very hard, fortunately, because she was at a place in her life when we met that she was ready to make next steps. I met her at the gym when she was kickstarting her fitness journey. So it was actually kind of a match made in heaven, as far as her wanting to come on to my boat and figure out how to really start taking care of the body better. In fact, when we started dating, I was very concerned with how this would translate, because she'll tell the story better, but I thought, and I still think, that I'm a pretty boring person. I go to bed early, I wake up early, I eat or I've actually gotten a lot better with the foods that I create, thanks to you, but I literally used to cook on the grill, chicken, sweet potatoes, I don't know, asparagus, and, you know, breakfast was just another meal. I didn't have to have eggs. So fortunately, she hopped on board with me and eating a lot of that stuff right from the get-go. Do you have anything that you want to say to that?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't hard for me because I was anxious to get this started, and I hate cooking so much that I was thankful for you to be cooking for us. So I just hopped right along. I mean, I definitely had my struggles with not having restaurant food, and I just remember, even on the middle of the week, it was very hard for me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and so to that point, also understanding, like, this has all been evolving. It's been a progression, it has not always been like this since day one, as far as like her coming right on the boat with me and eating all of the meals that I prepare right away. And actually, there's another question about this, about staying healthy and fit while traveling, which we could dive into, but she has evolved with what's important and what her goals are now versus what they were. But those small, simple steps to get there has allowed it to be, one, sustainable and truly get her to the goals that she wanted to without burning out, which is huge. So, long story short, it wasn't hard. You just got to find the right person who is ready to be in the right place with you at the same time. Another question was, what is my current body fat percentage? So I've been asked this a handful of times throughout the years, and like I said, my body fat has actually changed a lot since then. But this isn't something that I want to talk about numerically. I don't want to put a number out there and say this is where I am, because one thing that I've learned, especially with being with another person and another female at that I can really compare my body to, you realize that it's not about the number, it's about what your goals are and what that number ends up being based off of how you feel. So what I mean by that is, with her and I progressing together and getting into a place body composition wise that we're really satisfied with, I've learned that, and where we've looked very similar as far as like the muscles are showing, the abs are showing, all of that, for me to be at a body fat percentage that looks similar to what it looks like on Emily, I actually have to be about 5-6% less than where she currently is with her body fat. And that's because of the differences in our body type. I am short and stocky. She is tall and lean. And so, very quickly I had to accept, well, not even, I shouldn't say accept the fact, that's where you learn a number is just a number. And it's all relative to that one person. So if I were to give you a number and tell you what my body fat is, and you're all of a sudden starting to strive for that, and you have the same body type as Emily, you're actually going to be living a very unhealthy life, because you're at a much lower body fat than what you should be. Did that all make sense?
It totally made sense.
Anything that you want to say to that?
Well, everyone holds fat and their weight differently. So although one part of our body might look similar, like let's say abs, I hold weight differently. So I will hold more body fat because I have more body to hold it in.
Yeah. Yes, lucky you. And to that point also, outside of the body fat percentage, but respecting the differences between the body types and how a body responds to things, this was before the body fat percentage came into play, really, me learning what she could take in versus what I can take in based off of how it makes my body feel is totally different. So background on Emily, she's a swimmer, right? So high metabolism, used to taking in a high amount of carbs and her body knowing what to do with it. My background is softball and soccer and basketball. Those are quick sports where you don't need that high carb load in order to tap into those quick spurts of really carb storage for the energy, right? So my body has never needed nor used the type of carbs or the amount of carbs, well, really both type and amount of carbs that Emily has. So like when she would be able to have English muffins in the morning or sandwiches or whatever it may be, there was a long time that I would not, and I still don't a majority of the time, indulge in that type of stuff, because one, it doesn't make my body feel great. I get pretty bloated off of it. And two, I know that it doesn't respond positively from a body composition standpoint if I were to be having it in too much moderation.
And I get sick without as many carbs as I need. The quinoa and the rice, and I have gastric issues with that.
Yep, as far as her gut health goes, her gut health is different than my gut health. She responds poorly when she doesn't have a certain amount of grains, of course the right kind of grains, but also dairy for, you know, the digestive enzymes in that. And for me, it's not something that has affected me negatively. So, okay, good. Next question. As I awkwardly unlock your phone. Okay, so now it's on to questions for both of us. So first question is, how do you manage staying healthy and fit while traveling? So I'll kick this one off. In the past, I've talked about non-negotiables and basically having an agreement with yourself. Sorry, I'm shaking the screen a little bit. I get excited. Having non-negotiables and having an agreement with yourself, because when you make a promise to yourself, a verbal commitment, then you're less likely to break it. And also, when you have those verbal commitments, you are acknowledging certain things. Whereas when you don't have those commitments, those goals, those standards, or you don't verbalize them, then it's like they never really happened. And so you don't have to abide by them. So when it comes to traveling, which I live an hour and a half away from my family, so we are traveling often on the weekends to go visit them. And also we like to live our life. We like to go up north. So, but that doesn't mean that our health needs to be put on the back burner, which it very easily could be. And we see that happen all the time during the holiday season when people are traveling, during the summertime when people are traveling or visiting family, whatever it may be. There's always something that's going on that's going to give you an excuse to put your health on the back burner or not prioritize it. So for me, it's become a non-negotiable. When we travel, I take food with me, or I know exactly what I'm going to be getting with when we're going there. And because we're traveling or we're on vacation, it doesn't make it a freebie or a free-for-all. Why? And I've talked about this 1,000 times. Because eating well and moving my body makes me feel good. So why would I stop doing something that makes me feel good? So there just came a point in time where I had that aha moment, like, why am I stopping this just because I'm doing something outside of my everyday norm? I need to continue this regimen, and that I still can indulge in the cocktails on the weekends. I still can have food out on the weekends in moderation and with the right choices that makes my body feel good. So that's my answer. I just have non-negotiables, and those are it.
So I'm still on a transition when it comes to traveling, because historically I have always had a very stubborn rule that I do not work out on vacation. I don't work out on the weekends. I don't work out on holidays. And then furthermore, I never wanted to think about what I needed to eat or what I should be eating, or just having conscious thought with my food intake. In the last year and a half, I would say, I've really admitted to myself that it is a hindrance on a really nice weekend away when I come home and I don't feel well physically. Emotionally, I feel dragged out. I mean, you know the feeling of having 3 days of whatever you want, whenever you want. And so just admitting to myself that that's not worth it, and to put the extra time in, having conscious thought of where I'm going to eat or what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to try to stay away from, because I know it doesn't make me feel good. Meal prepping before we go, traveling with food more, all of these things I'm starting to implement more and more, and it just makes traveling weekends away, holiday weekends, all that much more enjoyable, because I'm not coming home with the burden and the stress of having to get over what I did.
So I think the quickest way to answer that is 2 parts. One is making a deal with yourself. So the question is, how do you manage staying healthy and fit while traveling? It's less of a manage and it's more of a prerogative and a standard. So you make a deal with yourself. This is what I'm going to do over the weekend or while I'm traveling, and it's a non-negotiable. Part 2 is planning for it. So if you fail to prepare, then you plan to fail. So if you're not ready for it with the right choices, then you're not going to do well. So that's how you manage staying healthy and fit while traveling. Next question. What is your favorite way to work on improving self-control and self-confidence, both together and individually? Do you want to answer that first?
Yeah, I'll kick that off. So I think the best way to work on improving self-control is to practice self-control. And specific ways to help practice self-control is a couple habits that I have is to acknowledge the small things. Share with Tennille my small accomplishments throughout the day of bypassing something that I was wanting, or getting through a meeting at school without having a slice of pizza that was provided to us, and instead sticking to what I had already brought for myself. Sharing my accomplishments, celebrating the small things. And the more I do that, the more confident I get with that. I think that's one way I work on my self-control.
Yep. So for me, and this was an awesome thing that I realized I could do with Emily when we first started seeing each other, with self-control, and I'm a big fan of this, it's verbalizing everything. When you hold things in, it's not real, it's not reality, and you aren't willing to face it. When you verbalize something, not just to yourself, but to somebody else, then it becomes reality, and you now have a new accountability partner. And to have an accountability partner that's a support system, that's honestly a huge key and missing component that a lot of people have and struggle with reaching their goals because they feel like they're by themselves. So the moment that you find that accountability buddy and can actually talk through things, then you can start to really work towards those goals. So like for me, when there would be a time in the year when I'm like, okay, it's time to tighten things up again, I don't just hold that in. I would say to Emily, okay, I really want to keep things clean. I need you to help me. Don't let me snack after 7 o'clock at night, or, I'm done with the fries on the weekend, so don't let me order them. And honestly, ever since I started doing that, it really was a game changer in having self-control. And then when you have self-control, like, let's be honest, that confidence goes through the roof. The reason why we have low self-esteem is because we feel like we can't be in control of ourselves. And the moment that you feel like you have more willpower, the stronger you feel about yourself. So those two things go hand in hand, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Next question, what was the biggest game changer on improvement in your mental health on a daily basis? So how have we changed or improved our mental health in a daily routine? The bugs are out.
Mosquitoes. I think for me is taking care of my own personal mental health and then sharing that with Tennille in our relationship. And one thing I always say is that, and what I try to practice with Tennille, is being true to what state of mind you're in for a day. If you're not having a good day, communicate that. That way you know where I am, and then maybe you can pick up the slack, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Piggyback off of that, I've got two things to say for this question. And the first one is piggybacking off of Emily, and it's communication. That's one thing that she has taught me to do so well within our relationship as a couple, but also as an individual. So for the health of our relationship, also for the mental health of myself. The more that you can communicate with your partner on the good, the bad, the ugly, the sad, the happy, the better off you're going to be. And with that, being comfortable with being vulnerable with each other too. And sometimes that takes one person being vulnerable first. And if that means you, even when you don't want to be, just imagine how much quicker you're going to get to the next step with that partner and to a whole nother level in that relationship when you can be vulnerable with each other and communicate better. So that has gone a long ways in helping with my mental health. But another thing is being much more present and aware of my emotions in the moment. So working on recognizing what my emotion is. So not reacting, but rather being with that emotion, acknowledging it, whether it's good or bad, and then either giving it energy or not giving it energy based off of its negativity or positivity. So that's been huge for me, is learning to be in the present and live in the present, in the moment, so that I can respond versus react, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was also going to say that for me, my mental health has never been stronger since I've been able to have more self-control and confidence, going back to the last question, in my abilities to stay healthy, stay on track, all of those things that we all try to work on, but living through with them, going through with them, sticking to them, no doubt helps my mental health.
Cool. All right, last question, and this is actually a great way to wrap it up because we have less than 5 minutes. Why is it important for you to tell others about how to live a healthier lifestyle?
For me, it's important because it gives me other people to help keep me accountable. It helps me stay authentic and true throughout the day, the week, the month. I think those are the two big things: authenticity and accountability.
Cool. For me, it kind of circles back to what I was just talking about as far as being present in the moment. I've been a personal trainer for almost 9 years now, and I've seen a lot of, the mosquitoes are out. Just so everybody knows,
They're
this is not a
crazy.
blacked out screen. It is pitch black out, and the mosquitoes are out here.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I've worked with a lot of individuals, a lot of personalities, and with people in a lot of different stages in their life. And something that I have noticed that really seems to separate what I think is me from others is my state of being. And that state being so positive and so happy, like just genuinely happy, like so thankful to just literally be sitting here right now. And to help people get to that state of happiness it's more than just working out, and it's also more than just being mindful. It's putting those two together. And all I want is to be able to project that positive energy onto others so that they can also experience what I experience. Yeah, I don't think I want to overextend that one.
Because it's true, sweet and true.
Yeah, that's exactly it. All right, cool. Well, that's all that we have as far as questions. Hopefully we answered them well and everybody will enjoy them, and there will be more to come. Otherwise, thanks for joining us tonight, and hopefully we'll talk soon. See ya.